we do here is go back.
Wow, they want a decent chat and yet they call people piece of shit. Nice logic. Yep, it's a great little crusade at the expense of the game's reputation, isn't it? A mod should be someone who's level-headed, that will be able to make correct judgments without throwing a tantrum. Well, damn, rumors were true. I knew community chat mods and guides were bad, but Jeebus, this is indeed an embarrassment to have representing us as chat moderator.
One at a time, one at a time. Manners, people. Sheesh. Sorry.
My apologies.
Ahoy there, Legion. Hope the day is treating you better than this recent circus of shenanigans has for most Tenno this week. Now, I know this sort of thing ain't everyone's cup of tea, so if you're new to the game with a fresh set of rose-tinted glasses or just a huge fan of it right now, I don't want to rain on your parade none. Don't fret, we're gonna get through this mess, even if it should have never gotten as far as it did, but there's a big update planned shortly. So here's a guide on how you can prepare for it, so the second it goes live you can jump right in. Link should be up on the screen, give that a clicky, and have a good one. For everyone else, I suggest we just, remain calm. 3, 2...
Okay, they're gone.
Legion, did you see what happened on the Reddit and forums last week? It was glorious! Quite the sight to behold. As you saw at the start of this video, there was a lot of comments across Reddit, the forums, Steam's message boards, and a bunch of other places, all in tune with one another, and thus far DE has yet to officially respond on the matter. Now the cynic in me would say,
they're never going to respond. They're waiting it out, hoping we forget and letting everything go back to f***ing business as usual.
But I do think they intend to make a post about it at some point. We don't know when, as right now DE is full bore into getting that Umbra update out, and they do not need the Millennial Mafia to mess up their long-awaited cinematic conclusion, and to date, still their first real update for the entire friggin' year. So they're gonna be full minimizing mode to try and staunch the bleeding.
But blood is good! Not only for kinks, but a sign you're on the right track for a well-deserved kill.
Easy, Space Ninja. Rein it back a bit. It has been an excessively long time since they gave us some real content. They got reason to be eager, and that's fine. But we're not here for a death stroke. We're here for a documentary of sorts. And not that hour-long Warframe advertisement that NoClip shelled out a few months ago either. Here we aimed as objectively as possible to summarize what happened, address the surprisingly well-documented factors on how we got to this point, take a look at what DE should do to fix the problem they themselves created, and how to avoid this from happening again in the future. As a chunk of this comes back to, shall we say, a few repeat offenders, as DE selectively chooses who they reprimand.
That sounds a little like Schadenfreude. Did you find something?
I'll just say certain people involved outright demanded we hold them accountable.
Oh, you magnificent I'm getting the popcorn.
It's gonna be quite the treat. But where'd you get that axe from? Did you snag that off a...
No.
Space Ninja, you just can't dip into other games like...
But the Atreus is uncomparably better than the brats we're stuck with.
Except when he gets all emo near the middle.
Yeah, but that was only temporary. Ours are a bunch of shit since...
Forever?
Yeah!
Fair point. But the blades are way better than the axe anyway.
Touché!
Now, it should go without saying, but even if the people or their actions mentioned within this video bother you something fierce, do not contact them. Do not talk to them. Don't interact with them. If you are mad, vent it in this comment section below here, but leave it there. This is officially my leave everyone be message. It only hurts your argument when you do something like that anyway, and besides, they have fatally damaged their own positions all by themselves, so no need to even lift a finger anyway. Just relax, take a deep breath, and recline into something comfy, with or without popcorn, as we set off on our journey.
In the beginning, there was strife.
Let's start at what tipped this recent event off in full. Long story short, a bunch of posts on Reddit have been pointing out just how laughably bad the chat filter has been lately. DE claimed to have fixed it, but just a few posts showed otherwise. Some of these apparently tie into some very archaic code words, or maybe a recent Chinese slang. It's not explained at all, but we just know random things aren't allowed when people blindly run into them. Then someone claimed the fix really did go through, so when Rebecca replied to the post, someone highlighted a now deleted entry on Tumblr.
Excuse me? Park those pork shoulders right there. You're telling me you knew we were heading into Tumblr territory, and you made me put down my axe? This is the most bloodthirsty realm this side of Helheim.
We're not straying from the path, boy. Besides, I figured by now you would have totally stole the Blades of Chaos.
I totally stole the Blades of Chaos.
Now you might be wondering why this post was deleted. Well, the person who wrote it doesn't want it to go public, of course. Or maybe DE told them to take it down themselves. Why would they do that? Well, I think the message itself will explain that, along with what everyone else was upset about on the socials. Warframe region chat update, Equius. My girlfriend and I are both chat mods for Warframe. Starting off positive and darn near lovey-dovey. And we've been working closely with DE's staff to have important additions made to one of the chat's few bots that are ever present. But then the clouds start to form and things get ominous. It might not seem like much now, but this line right here is actually a very, very big problem for DE to defend. But we'll get into that osprey's nest in just a minute. We've finally gotten to where the bot now issues an auto ban on any user who uses any phrases like Neza is a trap, while obviously not having the asterisks in there because people are seriously gross. Just 2 sentences in and we already see the groundwork for shenanigans. If anyone watching at home is aware of the horrible time Mighty No. 9 had with romantic interests, moderators, and how they dealt with the community, you already know exactly where this road is headed. I've been seeing a lot of people complaining about it, and I mean a lot of people. We're not online all the time to watch the chat, so the bot being there to ban users who think they can get away with being a transphobic piece of shit are now being dealt with.
Wow, they want a decent chat, and yet they call people piece of shit. Nice logic.
Really builds confidence within the community when someone in a position of power has no problem swinging it around, and they can get their way, and damned all who disagree.
This isn't a trans issue. This is people not liking the authoritarian control of a moderator. Frankly, I am happy that we aren't taking this sort of behavior lying down.
This particular chat moderator is potentially well known in the community and is known as Telluric in-game, though they have quite a few outside of it. I was not well versed with their behavior myself, though I did notice players seem to have a dim view of them. For example, in a recent case a few months back, DE let players trade in shards off Eidolons for Endo. Now some goofball content creator started up a gag and said you could get banned if you actually did that, and it spread like wildfire across the Discord and onto the game. That's when Telluric stepped in and took control of the situation by calming everyone down and saying,
"No one is getting banned for exchanging shards for Endo. I don't care whose popular Discord info this came from. If the info doesn't come from DE, then it's just rumors. We've had a similar issue post-TWW, and no one got banned. Stop acting like idiots."
As you can see, totally professional. Totally up to par on how a completely stable genius would handle their one job of moderating chat in a very unbiased, caring manner. But even though all the players are clearly idiots and obviously wrong, she continues,
"Your best bet is to not exchange the shards regardless."
And then tops it off with an out-of-place yet defiant,
"Play stupid games, win stupid prizes."
Again, top-notch moderation, and I cannot see why anyone at all would have lingering resentment towards this person in power, trying to jam their own personal lexicon into your and everyone else's game. I cannot recommend enough adding play stupid games, win stupid prizes to things, as it will always make you look like the nicest, smartest person in the room. So just tallying up the numbers here, not only are the players idiots, but we should do what you originally said and ignore your initial claim. But no, forget that. They're still right. They can't be wrong. You know what? They're so right that,
please report me. I'd love that. Your report against me is literally nothing special. Just saying.
Well, how about that? Courteous and condescending. I don't know about you, but this is exactly what I want on my staff, directly handling customers all day for hours. I could retire tomorrow with people like that under my wing and be off to Maui doing the Stingray Shuffle with the missus and a mojito. Now, funny story, people were getting banned for trading shards for Endo. Was quite the pile up on Reddit, and I'm sure forums were the same. Banned from the game till 2035. 18 years hard labor and no Warframe access. Some might think it excessive, but oh no, not me. That's what you get for being an idiot. Telluric warned you to do it, then not do it, and then egged you on to report them for playing stupid games when logged into Warframe. Not sure what they meant by that, but I am so lost in all of this, it is beyond me. This is some fourth dimensional chess I just cannot keep track of. Seems like no one else could either, as people had to resort to tweeting the lead developers individually to regain access to their account again. Sure glad the chat moderators cleared this up before it got out of hand so the devs could focus on getting their actual jobs done and fixing this car crash. But we're not even done with that first blog post, and if you can imagine, it gets much worse. Obviously, this is just something small, but keeping transphobic slurs out of region chat, especially the aforementioned one, is really important to my girlfriend and I, and it's important to the staff as well. We're still working on creating new filters and trigger phrases, but so far, what I've mentioned above has been working really well. Since all I've seen are angry users, I hope they stay that way. And this is really where the floodgates started opening and what started all those posts piling up.
What I've mentioned above has been working really well, because all I've seen are angry users. What the actual f***? Yep, it's a great little crusade at the expense of the game's reputation, isn't it? Then why is he still a moderator at all? A mod should be someone who's level-headed, that will be able to make correct judgments without throwing a tantrum. This person clearly is not suited for that kind of job. If he's throwing a tantrum in public about absolutely anything, then he clearly shouldn't have been promoted to mod in the first place, because that just opens the door to more tantrums like this that will invariably affect their ability to moderate things. I just don't get it. Nepotism, corruption, friend of a friend of a friend of a DE employee, lax screening methods, who knows? The moderator FAQ on the forums does not describe how moderators are even picked at all. Every time I look at Telluric's 2015 meltdown over a dev stream, I become more and more convinced he's utterly unchanged from his mentality back then.
The 2115 meltdown they mentioned dates back to when Equinox first revealed on the stream, and Steve made an offhanded remark about Bruce transitioning into Caitlyn Jenner about the same time. Reb was quick to shut down that topic, but apparently not quick enough for chat not to see where this was going, and let's say it just started swarming with Admiral Akbars, and Telluric vented straight to the forums, but I'll spare you the details lest we activate someone's trap card.
Yu-Gi-Oh! No, you didn't!
We're still working on careful and selective phrasing for the bot, so that we can talk about being gay without the word triggering the bot, because as it stands right now, it's an auto kick for using the word gay. Usually because people use it in a derogatory context. We want to change that, and we're trying hard. Please be patient with us. This sort of person should not be in charge of the ban filter. Typing gay in any context is an instant ban. This is not okay. Gay is not a slur and has not been for quite a while. In addition, these posts give off heavy vibes of immaturity and narrow-mindedness. Knowing this person is in charge of managing the community makes me deeply uncomfortable. The entire chat filter idea is misguided. It will never stop players from being offensive. It's simply not possible to do without removing all interaction between players. However, it can readily introduce a lot of collateral damage and community backlash while stifling real conversations and not making a dent in the issues it's trying to solve.
Well, damn. Rumors were true. I knew community chat mods and guides were bad, but Jeebus. This is indeed an embarrassment to have representing us as chat moderator. The whole censorship thing in Warframe really needs a look over. Encouragement of using the in-game filter and ignore function should be the extent of it. Both the stances "I find it offensive" and "others may find it offensive" must be stripped from your mind when you moderate anything. If it's not actually offensive, it needs to be left alone. It also is not okay to be offended on behalf of others, and moderate with an agenda as well.
Now, the popularity of these comments led to an article popping up on a fairly well-known site, One Angry Gamer.
At the very least, I have to respect its name.
I'd recommend avoiding the comment section on that one, as Leapin' Lacquered Lotus, that's quite the blaze. But it does feature someone important to our tale, so we'll be coming back to this and also to Lurik a little bit later on. Another person left a follow-up post. Just want to add this, that I'm a chat moderator as well, and I'm in frequent contact with certain staff, helping to improve the filter. Recently helped get casual mentions of the word rape added to the filter. If anyone encounters problematic speech in the game and has suggestions for the filter, feel free to let me know as well. I'd like to see Warframe be welcoming to as many people as possible. Now, we've been on quite a ride already, but just to reiterate, we've been working closely with DE staff to have important additions made to one of the chat's few bots that are ever present. And I'm a chat moderator as well, and I'm in frequent contact with certain staff helping improve the filter. This is what I previously mentioned is quite a problem for DE. As fans are rightly upset, these people with power over them not only want to change the game in their own design, but have open hostility to the very players they are supposed to be moderating impartially. After many pages and requests for Rebecca to address the players' concerns, it took another full day to finally log back in and reply across both Reddit and the forums, each with their own issues and concerns on wording. First up, Reddit. To demystify things, we need to be very careful with the narrative being built here in this post. Yes, you do. As folks are not pleased with the information they have just received about who's bending DE's ear and controlling their hand in the process. I will only speak in facts to ensure clarity. The title of this post I've been tagged in, for example, now, implies this is a new thing. It's not. This particular combination of linked items would have tripped Kickbot for all of 2018 thus far and beyond. Now to clarify, she just said these changes are not in fact new. They have been in place for all of 2018 and will continue to be in the foreseeable future. I think this is 100% correct, but we'll come back to why this is important in just a moment. A fact is, the discovery of this combination is being used as evidence in a newer narrative, which will be addressed outside this post. Please respect the time required to fully understand the timeline and reactions that have appeared across many communities. Here is DE's official statement, basically saying they will make another statement. Not to jump ahead, but according to DE Aiden, pretty much a day or two later, I want to be clear that you are not going to be able to use this thread to continue the same fruitless discussion you were holding in a thread that was recently locked. He was the one who locked it, by the way. Again, referring to Rebecca's post, we are working on it. And this means that a solution will take some time and that we are weighing options. This does not mean that we are ignoring you or your feedback, and further discussion on the topic is useful, so long as it does not devolve into mediation of what individuals do or do not deem to be offensive. When asked at what time that statement would arrive, DE Aiden said, "At this point in the process, what we are doing is collecting feedback. This means we have nothing to share, as we are still processing the feedback we are being given by the community. When we have something to share with you all, we will do so." Told you so! Waiting for it to blow over. That's not fair, Space Ninja. Though, a bit later he did lock that thread as well. Did mention they want to work on transparency at least, but back to Reb, and since we're on the forums, let's just go with that one. We build tools to facilitate the type of behavior that allows everyone to enjoy our game from our rule set alone. Again, going hard in the paint on DE being the one in charge, thus implying the chat moderators are not. That's why in-game chat, words that are spammed or are inappropriate for Warframe are flagged. Users, moderators or otherwise, can offer feedback based on what they see within game channels, but it's our choice to determine how our bots work. Here's where things get tricky. Adding in the messages on Tumblr, all parties involved are trying to make themselves look important in one way or another. Reb doubled down on DE being the ones in the driver's seat, but that's not what the chat moderators said on Tumblr. We've been working closely with DE staff to have important additions made to one of the chat's few bots that are ever present, and I'm a chat moderator as well, and I'm in frequent contact with certain staff helping to improve the filter. Recently helped get casual mentions of the word rape added to the filter. There's going to be somewhat of a repeating theme throughout all this that ties to this conflict here, which is why I think DE through Reb said several times that they are in control of the wheel. Is that the case though? Hard to say. Both Telluric and friend-zoning Misandrist claim to take credit for the Kickbot changes. Oh, did I mention that the second official chat moderator who left a comment on that Tumblr page is named friend-zoning Misandrist? I knew I forgot something. Yeah, their name is friend-zoning Misandrist. Screams utmost fairness for all players at all times, I know.
How does this not make this person an actual troll? The only difference between this and you mad bro is somehow this bloke is under the delusion that they're the good guy in the story.
Misandrist, meaning a person who dislikes, despises, or is strongly prejudiced against men, which, you know, it's a bit strong of a position to literally name yourself after, and friend zoning, of course, meaning that hellish realm many people get stuck in when they have emotional ties to someone that has no romantic interest back in return. But in this context, it would seem they either willingly partake in this action in real life, or just merely find enjoyment in the idea of purposely leading men on, luring them with potential of having a romantic relationship, possibly using them for many unreciprocated favors due to said emotional ties overriding their critical logic factories, and generally being a really stellar example of a great and truly unbiased moderator. What kind of person would relish in the idea of putting someone else through that torment that is the friend zone on purpose? Oh, the exact same person who dislikes, despises, and is strongly prejudiced against men. And again, this is someone expected to remain impartial and be held to a higher standard of objectivity when it comes to moderating the player base. A player base of anywhere between 90 and 97% male players, I might add. This is based on not only the long-held 10% female average in action gaming genres, but also a detailed survey of a tiny sample size of only 270,000 gamers, and my own channel's demographics that is focused on Warframe, so I might know what the audience is looking at. So just to clarify, she would not be hating half the player base as you might initially assume. She just hates half the world's population. In Warframe, it's way worse. She hates almost every single player in the game. How could DE let something like this happen? How could someone so obviously biased they put it in their very name get into a position of authority? Let's look at the official chat moderator page and see if we can get to the bottom of this mystery, Scoob.
What do these chat moderators do?
Chat moderators oversee the global chats, region recruiting, trading, relays, and Maru's Bazaar, and moderate where needed. If EULA-TOS or Code of Conduct violations occur, they have permission to kick or temporarily ban the players responsible.
How do I become a chat moderator?
To be blunt, you don't. Chat moderators are carefully selected by DE staff to keep a watchful eye on chat. There is no application or sweet talking to become a chat moderator. Thus, every single person we mention here today was chosen by hand to moderate the chat by DE themselves. Don't forget there was no clout or sweet talking involved. It was purely based upon amazing people skills dealing with the player base. That's good. I'm really comfortable with knowing that. But what about when those pesky idiot players report their betters, the moderators? Well, that's right here.
Can I report chat moderators?
Yes, you most absolutely can. Chat moderators, like all players, must respect the Code of Conduct, EULA, and TOS. If you see chat moderator violating any of these rules, please send a ticket to support with screenshots of their offense. And since Telluric flat out requested players to do that, and you know DE has timestamps and access to what was said in full, unless these chats were drastically altered in some way, it would appear chat moderators are all but immune from reprimands, as I don't know how much more blatant you can be than calling players idiots for warning others to avoid getting banned from the game for 18 entire years. Players who are 100% in the right, I might add. Again, so glad they are in charge of policing the community they love so very dearly. Now, chat moderators don't just appear from thin air, they do have to get started somewhere. That place is, of course, the Guides of the Lotus. We're gonna come back to that one in a little bit. First things first, just how does someone with the name friend-zoning misandrist get approved to be any volunteer associated with a company at all? You change your name. Much like when a dopey friend gets carried away when making a new character and a GM requests they take another stab at it. Misandrist changed her name to Missan. Good as new, and completely different. Not bigoted at all now. I particularly like that they kept just enough of their name to keep and reinforce the core offensiveness of it. It's an assertion to just how essential that is to them. And you know DE was not comfortable with her original name, as they not only refused to say the name on air, they got flustered just trying to figure out who invited her to the dojo in the first place.
Oh, I love when Equinox claps. Do it again. Friend zoning.
You invited that person.
I didn't.
I didn't.
When she changed her name is key to knowing when she got into the program and matters a great deal with what Rebecca said on Reddit when trying to minimize the damage of this event. Based on her Tumblr accounts, the latest I could see she still had her full in-game name was 2 years ago on June 11th, 2016. And the most recent time with the new name I could find was, oddly enough, June 10th, 2017. Now, somewhere within that year's time, she was allowed into DE's inner circle. But assuming she got in the day the most recent video was posted, as that's the best we can see for sure, she's had her truncated name for 11 months. Now, as Reb said way back up there, I will only speak in facts to ensure clarity. The title of this post I've been tagged in, for example, now, implies this is a new thing. It's not. This particular combination of linked items would have tripped Kickbot for all of 2018 thus far and beyond. Well, if she's been involved with DE for just about a year at this point, 2018's only been around for about 6 months, for crying out loud. That in no way would disprove the overall concerns of the fans. Things seem to be changing due to new chefs getting access to the soup. But hey, maybe it's all a joke. It's not. Maybe it's all a joke.
Just saying.
Maybe the name's haha, I'm so freaking edgy I pop tires just by walking across the streets, sort of over-the-top joke meme name. Let's see what we can find.
Looks like the Reddit found your account. Well, that explains why my inbox is suddenly full of crying anons who are butthurt about my URL.
Maybe she's just putting on a brave face. Now, here we go. Here's the perfect question all the way back to a year ago.
Please tell me you aren't actually a misandrist. LOL.
Well, maybe on the forums. She's got to at least pretend to care on the forums.
This isn't Tumblr. This isn't Tumblr. I didn't realize human decency was confined to a single website.
I'm pretty sure Zammy070 would have a word to disagree with you on that, but I mean, okay, this looks bad, and seems like they are increasingly wanting to police chat in ways that would make themselves feel better, or at least everyone else feel worse.
If net neutrality is repealed, Comcast will finally make La Runda illegal. Exactly. See? A good thing. Hashtag Warframe. Hashtag can they make region illegal too?
I mean, sure, Telluric and Server have direct ties with DE, but, you know, at least Misandrist doesn't.
We're in Cetus right now with some lovely friends, Corial and Misan.
It's a lost cause, man. Her freaking pet was named Chairman Mao, for f***'s sake.
Okay, yeah, let's jump back to the one that started this whole Tumblr blog post in the first place, Telluric. Now, as someone on Reddit said, it seems Telluric has not changed since the 2015 forum post, and based on the just awful story I found from a ex-friend of theirs, I'd have to agree. I'm not gonna quote it as that'd make it easy to find. So for both parties' sake, I'm going to not detail said story. But if the person who wrote it happens to watch this at some point in the future, you are an extremely kind and caring person, and I hope you're doing much better. You will not likely get an apology from who you want it from. And let's be honest, a refund is laughable at this point. Come on, that's funny. But truly, for whatever it is worth, I'm sorry for what you went through, and I hope you're doing okay. But what I can share is screenshots this person posted, which I think reveals why Tullaric's point of view is not changed at all, as while it might not be as easy to spot as someone named Misandrist, they are still quite biased.
Cis person voice, but Mesa has boobs. She's obviously a girl.
Cis, basically meaning straight person, aka, oddly again, 90 to 97% of the world's population, depending on what questions you ask. 5 minutes later,
Cis person voice, well, she has to be a girl. Because guys don't have boobs. Lol.
8 minutes later, and the most telling message offered.
I literally have over 5K notes on a post about why cis shaming is stupid and people suck for doing it. But if you want to be like that, more power to you.
So currently we have a misandrist and a cis shamer who potentially hate most of the very player base they are in charge of moderating, and both of which who are all too eagerly hostile when confronted about it.
All confrontations must be solved with conflict or the pacifists win.
Good point, thank you.
Not like they put up much of a fight in the first place.
But something I also found strange that was contradictory was how Telluric doesn't exactly want to follow the same rules they want everyone else to be stuck with. Do as I say, not as I do, as it were. On their fanfic commission page, they have this big, bold attention getter.
Please be informed that there is a fic on my account involving rape that I have yet to finish. Unfinished, it sounds more like a tease.
Not the best time, Ninja, let me finish. And if you read a bit further on, it says, if you do not want to be exposed to such things, use a blacklist and simply do not read it.
What?
Uh-huh.
But Warframe has a chat filter.
Yep.
And you can ignore players you don't want to hear from.
You know it.
So, if they say just don't look at it and that's a viable alternative, why the hell do they want to add words to a blacklist at all? Why do they want to add even more words on top of that?
Precisely what I was wondering myself. Also note the top corner. Warframe chat moderator, previous senior guide of the Lotus, date, October 26th, 2015. And since that is obviously way before 2018 even started,
they could obviously played a role in adding words to the blacklist.
Almost certainly. Especially after they took credit for doing just that and bragging about it on their personal blogs.
You gonna look at the fanfics?
Nah. Do you want to hear some of the titles, though?
I'd be lying if I said no.
Sake and Silk. Big Boy has a tasty day.
Ooh, tell me more.
Oh Simple Thing. Overwatch. Jesse McCree. Hanzo Shimada. Angela Mercy Ziegler. Goodness, I Need a Minute. Post-canon. Not really an AU, but kind of is, I guess. Cuddling and snuggling. Kissing. Crying. Fluff and angst. This is where it starts getting bad. Here we go. Bathing. Washing. Yeah, man, it's just gonna be fluffy as from now on. I've got jack to do. Poor McCree doesn't know how to cook rice. What an oaf. So Hanzo has to do the actual cooking. Sweet baby Jesus. I can't wait to die. Now, Telluric is dating a third chat mod named Server, and during this, you could imagine they were amazingly rational. A very mild, very polite, and of course, a very community-friendly and supportive.
I am now watching the subreddit Witch Hunt another chat mod because they speak their thoughts on Tumblr. Well, subreddit, why don't you come at me, you limp f***s?
If that doesn't highlight the issue of emotional ties overriding neutral moderation of chat, I don't know what is. In summary, to quote a great man,
hate is stronger than duty.
Now, for example, I feel compelled as a Team Reddit fan myself to rise up to their challenge, but that doesn't seem very mature. And unfortunately, it would not be limp, but I'm not one to brag anyway.
That's quite big.
Thank you, Mr. Dubs.
Impressive.
Server then cherry picks a random tweet, attempting to dismantle them single-handedly.
The chat mods in Warframe are absolute I type in kinetic siphon traps and get banned because they think the word trap is transphobic. Shake my head. They mod chat for a community they legit hate.
Likely in the same way they would on a relay, Server swoops in with, "Hey there, Ball. I'm an actual chat mod for Warframe. I heard you say you got banned because you said kinetic siphon trap. I found that strange since contextually, that makes sense. So I went and tested myself. Turns out I didn't get kicked even when I wasn't in mod mode. Here's the proof as well. Maybe you said something else and didn't want to say it? Thanks for trying." Dripping with charm that would melt a hole in the floor and definitely not proving the guy's point, that passive-aggressive thanks for trying at the end really helps bring the undecided and neutral community together for your cause. Now, only a few problems with your proof there, Server. For one, you didn't type it in region chat, which is what everyone else is talking about. You typed it into the ritzy and all but vacant council chat. So your comparison at the least is not apples to apples. Note the icon and actual lack of region chat on Server's bar. A bit ironic considering that was precisely how Reddit Tenno suggested players solve this banning problems themselves. Now just in case I double checked, and DE's even got a chat guide on their site that pretty clearly shows the icons and what they mean. Though now that I get a closer look at region chat, I'm starting to remember another equally backwards event that took place recently. Something that blew up in the face of the people trying to promote it for supposedly equality reasons and totally not for their own personal gains. What was it? Billy blunders, hateful hunger, bully hunters, that's what it was. Man, that was some great entertainment. Shame the show didn't even last as long as Firefly.
Ugh, too soon.
The other problem with your so-called proof there, Server? You know that one post Reb finally decided to reply to on the Reddit? Yeah, someone didn't even type a word in region chat. They just linked Nezha and kinetic siphon trap and got banned for a week. Really sticking it to the man there, Server. You show those peons how to appreciate their overlords and that it's best to just remain silent while the big boys are on the scene. Sorry, I forgot. When the big boys have a tasty day. My apologies. Can't seem to keep that one straight. It's a new term to me. Forgive me. I'll do better. I promise. So Server was frustrated their significant other was dealing with some issues. So now they went out of their way to railroad a person in retribution who plays Warframe, and they like it enough to have named themselves as a Cephalon. And yeah, their tone was hostile, but they weren't talking to anyone specifically. They all but said this to the void itself. The tweet in question has 0 likes and somehow oddly no retweets considering. He has a staggering 3 followers, all of which are bots and spam. And this is the one you chose to single out. Good on you for keeping the community a better place in your own mind and out of the game. Really putting yourself up to a higher standard as a volunteer that directly represents the company. So right now we got 3 for 3 of some of the tip-top classiest people who do not at all fear reprisal from DE. So they're going to continue to directly crap on their own player base they somehow got in charge of and have been for quite some time. Again, how did they get into these positions? Guides of the Lotus time, here we go. Now, full disclosure, at one point I contemplated applying for this role, but as one of the requirements was being connected at the hip to a chat service, no, I can patrol a relay and help folks out just fine by myself. I don't need the hive minds for the greater good's assistance, thank you. So I never went forward with putting in an application. But a man by the name of Fostinator did. You might have heard him a few years back as there was, shocker here, drama involved that got him kicked out of the position. Do tell. To summarize, the 2016 elections were ramping up and winding down. People had some very strong feelings, which I had hoped would have died down by now, but that's a topic for another day. Twitter being Twitter, tempers flared. Unfortunately, the exact tweets in question have apparently been deleted, but from what I can gather, Little Navi and AGGP apparently disagreed with Fostinator's political opinion sometime in November 2016. Or maybe he disagreed with theirs, same conclusion, you know what I'm saying. From what I can tell, Fostinator called one or both of them something akin to being brain dead to come to their conclusion, to which Na'vi took great offense. Again, Twitter no longer has this tweet, so I cannot 100% verify this by hand. So consider it an informed guess. To his credit, in his first video, Fostinator avoided even mentioning Na'vi by name, in an attempt, I'm assuming, to keep her out of it. And based on how excited he was when she first followed him, I think he honestly did not want to see her dragged into this, even though she apparently does not feel the same way back.
Dude, I'm not here to get depressed.
So, time passes, and suddenly Fostinator wakes up to see he's removed from Guides of the Lotus. He goes to ask for what reason, but he was already removed from chat, rank, and privileges associated with it. He tracks Danielle down on the forums as he can't contact her in chat anymore, and during the conversation, she realizes what happened and how she was purposely misled by someone. She apologizes for the situation and offers him his spot back on the guides. Since he was so ticked off at how quickly he couldn't even voice his opinion, he opted to make a video about it and his experience, showcasing just how much of a blind eye was turned comparatively to AGGP's well-known hostility to anyone who disagrees with him on the same Twitter and time frame as the tweets that were used against him to get him ousted as the guides.
And you'd be hard-pressed not to find AGGP saying something publicly that wasn't hostile.
Yes, it's a very common complaint. He makes great videos, but has an extremely toxic personality. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one from the last time. Telling two other content creators they don't have any morals because he disagrees with them. That's nice. Very next day, Danielle says they saw the video and do not agree with his behavior, taking back the offer to rejoin the guides along with it. This is what some would describe as the
"you can't quit, you're fired, you"
strategy, which honestly I don't think went over well for either party. Retalius did a video on the guides not too long ago, showcasing just how badly managed and backstabbing the entire thing is. And this is directly where nearly all the chat moderators were promoted from. Someone even told Rhett whales, or people with more dollars than cents, throw money at the game in huge amounts, and just for that alone, some have been invited to the program as a thanks for their support.
Money.
Same difference. And this is, of course, one source that is virtually anonymous, so don't write this down as fact, just sharing what I learned along the way and the potential of how this ended up at this mess. For a more concrete source of how the guides work, how about from a guide's perspective themselves? See if this doesn't perfectly fit with behaviors previously showcased. Long before joining, I was told by other guides I had become chummy with that there was a severe issue with any feedback by them being ignored, swept under the rug, or dogpiled on by other guides. Any feedback given in a public manner amongst the guides is immediately assaulted and descended upon by other guides, with the atmosphere often becoming quite hostile. Hostile and hyper-defensive of their positions? I can't think of a single person I mentioned today that could possibly match that criteria. If any issues are forwarded to the main staff running the program, it is often completely ignored, or is made to be sorted out amongst the guides themselves, which often backfires for the reasons stated above. I fully understand the strain on staff and how tough it must be to run a program like the guides, but if it is too hard to manage so many people, and the end product is essentially another little club, then I often wonder why the staff bother. This is especially the case when there is often little direction given to new guides except by senior members. And if you recall...
Yes. I do. So
Yes. Misan is a wonderful chat moderator on PC, and Coriel is a junior guide, part of the junior guide program.
Misandrist was buddying up with a new junior member to the volunteer team. Wonder what she was training them and what agenda she was imparting on them. I have no idea. Could have been anything. Your guess is as good as mine as what she might find important to talk about. My second problem is the way players are admitted to the guides. The entire admittance procedure seems to be massively politicized. If guides are asked for input, then it brings about a rift, where players who are known to be friends with certain guides can and will have lies made up about them in order to get back at the guides they are friends with. Weird, it's almost like that's exactly what happened with Fostinator. There is a huge problem with players who seem to be very selfishly in the guides for no other reason than to earn a new badge. Players who proudly show off the guide emblem and outfit but are never seen helping other players. Players who are admitted to the guides and are abusive and hostile and state openly that they will start to care when they become a senior guide. And again, the good ones of this go on to be chat moderators. Thumbs up. Good job. Thirdly, and this comes back to the caliber of person that can be found in the guides, there are plenty of players in the guides that are not good people to be around. Players who try and use the guides as a way to advertise their own fundraisers for holidays, or players who are extremely manipulative and abusive. I can confirm that is precisely what I ran into when looking up this stuff behind the scenes. Yes, that is spot on. This leads to many of the guides, including myself, actively mistrusting each other and forming isolated groups where, if there are plans in the works to suggest changes, isolated guide groups will hide the plans from all other guides for fear of being shut down or abused. Several times I have had these hostile guides talk to the staff running the programs about supposed behavior of mine, which has proven to be completely false if investigated. So with chat moderators' biases on fire, guides of the Lotus they came from looking equally abysmal, with their backs against the wall, DE needs a noble samurai to come clear a path for him. Someone to put out the fires and quell any unrest. This man, this hero, is Shadow. Remember that one Angry Gamer article? Well, Shadow knew to end this tirade, he had to go to the source and weather the storm all by himself. One man alone to turn the tide in all the chat moderators' favor, as he himself is one. Or should I say was one? Because I don't see how this is going to age well for him. This first one comes across like the beginning of an anime, so allow me to read the words of Shadow-san Senpai, master of the blade and keyboard. This is my first account, by the way. I'm Shadow, the Warframe chat mod. I only signed on to comment how childish you all seem, while getting to relish the fact that I don't have to use the same etiquette and decorum that I do when actually moderating. It's really head-scratchingly stupid. Like, children whining that they don't get to eat paste. Me? Oversensitive? I was brought on to deal with the shit stains that inhabit region alongside the cool people. If people want to leave because they can't be as much of an as they can be somewhere else, then good f***ing riddance. I'll shed no tears. But we're not in Warframe region chat, so that means I can be as big as an as I want to be, which is great, because I feel constrained not being able to use my regular vernacular whenever I'm moderating. Ooh, nice fedora on that one. And sure, you can tell people to tough up all you want, but the fact of the matter is that some things just bother people. I get that. I don't know why other people don't, but whatever. The word, whoa, no. Hard R. He went full on hard R. Well, luckily for all these chat moderators, any volunteer position held by DE is 100% limited to in-game chat and in-game chat alone. Because if not, anyone officially chosen by DE would obviously make it look like the company itself not only supports that type of behavior, but encourages it. Would be in quite the spot of bother if that were the case, wouldn't it? You know, I just remembered I never did quite finish Fostinator's story, did I? Why was Fostinator kicked and rejected again? First, he was kicked by AGGP and Navi. When that was quickly resolved, he made a video about what actually goes on behind the scenes, and DE was not happy. People were finding out about the guides not being sunshine and wummy gummy gumdrops, so they rejected their second invitation with, and I quote, "Your ongoing behavior on Twitter and on YouTube has shown us that you do not meet the criteria needed to return. Guides are respectful to DE, their fellow guides, and most importantly, to the community as a whole. As a volunteer for Warframe, you represent our community and are expected to be an outstanding citizen for our community." Uh-oh, Shadow-san Tensai Bakaban. Maybe, just maybe, you might want to back out of that interview you had planned to do with one angry gamer. You know, I can't predict the future, but maybe that's not going to come out looking too well. Also, according to all the comments left by DE Danielle, Fostinator did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong in-game when on active Guide of the Lotus duty. and he was obviously able to keep unbiased when moderating. The only reason Danielle listed for his official removal both times was for his actions on his personal Twitter and YouTube accounts. With that in mind, you better believe that means every single volunteer position at DE is responsible for every word and every comment they have ever made on their personal pages, Twitter, and Tumblr, unless they selectively enforce which of the volunteers their rules specifically apply to anyway. Again, in DE's own words, across 2 posts from DE Danielle herself to Fostinator on his double elimination match, the Warframe community does not support or tolerate insulting other community members. You understand that as a guide, you represent DE and the community as a whole, and as a volunteer for Warframe, you represent our community and are expected to be an outstanding citizen for our community. If you are going to represent and reflect DE's name with your actions, you must not just be good, but an outstanding citizen for the community, both in-game and out. Fostinator was removed not for any in-game biases or nasty interactions acting as a guide to the Lotus proper, but some tweets and the airing of shenanigans on his channel. Thus, by DE's own standards and very words out of DE Danielle's statements to him, misandrist, telluric, server, Shadow, and AGGP all should immediately be removed from any official capacity involving Warframe. Other than DE's eyes cast upon him and a bridge thoroughly burned by both sides, nothing further was done to Fostinator, so I don't see the need for this lot to have anything else done to them either. The guides mostly wanted power in the community and to have their personal wants and whims thrust upon the player base. To lose access to that will be punishment enough for them. AGGP will still be free to make videos, so his channel will largely remain unfazed and his revenue line unimpeded. But for anyone that was constantly referred to as a sheep for merely disagreeing with him, or even worse, berated at length in comments or on Twitter, while it is grossly delayed, at least they'll know the situation was finally resolved. As to quote DE Drew, whether you think something is offensive or not is not up for debate. The reality is there are words and phrases that are hurtful to some players. We want to foster an environment to the best of our ability that allows as many players as possible to feel comfortable in game. As the decision is DE's to make and theirs alone, they might not do nothing at all. Called it! Honestly, it is a very real possibility. If they bunker down and just ignore it, eventually the issues will disappear and it'll become just a long forgotten memory with enough time. But one thing I do want to point out before I wrap this epic length story up, DE's got one last spot of bother with Shadow. That Shadow with a hard R! Of course, Shadow in all his wisdom, played what is basically the worst individual show of edginess one could muster to look cool onto interwebs. Shadow did this completely in the public eye and recently, especially considering what was said, if DE is going to remove any one person as a scapegoat, is going to be him. The trap there is, no, you can't say. The pitfall there is, if Shadow is the only person they remove, they'll have a very noticeable pattern in place. In the same comment, Shadow admitted he is a straight white guy. Fostinator is also a straight white guy. If DE only removes Shadow, they'll have both a racial and sexual bias on their hands. It will be mighty hard to explain. It already looks really bad they willingly let someone named Misandrist onto their volunteer staff and let them keep their name all but intact. If the name was so bad you wouldn't even say it live.
Friend zoning.
Why are they in any sort of authority position? And why didn't you make them change their name entirely? WoW does that with character names they don't like, or if you keep trying to hide it, they eventually give you one like Fluffykins or something you probably don't want. Some people like to roleplay in character. Don't you badmouth Fluffykins. No offense intended, Ninja, though. Please do not give me any details, as I don't want to know what you do in your spare time. Fluffykins like face scratchies, woo-woo. Anyway, take a glance at the titles of videos and articles lately. Do you know how quickly DE would get eaten alive if that happens? Does DE agree misandry is a viable choice in a dude-dominated game? Do they realize that the hatred of males means all males? Does DE willingly endorse moderators' bias against half of all the LGBTQ plus players in the world from their game? Server calling Reddit 10-0 limp. Do they know how common male performance issues are in men?
That sounds pretty ableist and exclusionary to me.
Between Teleric's relationship and emotional ties with Server, thus affecting their biasness, to how easily they can badmouth the player base and content creators who were 100% correct to warn other players on the issue, I might add, as well as willing to go so far to supporting banning the word gay just to prevent anyone from saying it in any context solely to ensure the potential for non-gay players to not have access to that word in chat, even at the expense of the very same LGBTQ+ players they're trying to help. That is why players were calling this mindset authoritarian. They damage the very real player base despite the potential imaginary ones. In short, DE's got a busy schedule on their hands. They only want to focus on getting the sacrifice out with as little bugs as fast as humanly possible, and of course TennoCon shortly after that, so they do not want to waste any time on this issue. Unfortunately, the players have no new content to play with, so they got nothing to keep them distracted, so even when the post slowed down in popularity, this is still going to be lingering on in their minds is all I'm saying. Round of applause for everyone who made it to the end. Actually, I'm going to borrow a play from Old School Boogie here and say to leave a comment with your thoughts on this event, including the word candy.
You used that one before.
I know, but well, like candy, what can I say? And it's been like years since I used that, so no, it's fine. Though, Jeebus Cripes, people, can you please be more careful with the internet. I was not looking for this and I found way too much information about these people. With all that stuff people are buying now, like Alexa or whatever, Siri or whatever the hell, where you can just talk to it and get information and just leave it running endlessly in your house, it's only going to get worse. Like, one, don't buy that. I mean, it's your money, but I wouldn't buy it. But that's a video and a concern for another day. Until next time, Legion, thank you for watching and take care.